This man, Dean Smith, has built tradition as coach of the University of North Carolina basketball program over a quarter century. This year, one of his men, James Worthy, was a prominent member of the NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. James Worthy, the latest Tar Heel to taste the sweet wine of victory. There is another young one on his way, name of Michael Jordan. No player has ever gone to the pros with a bigger impact than Michael Jordan when he joined the Chicago Bulls. These two bright basketball stars, part of North Carolina tradition in college basketball. In the Westwood area of Los Angeles, tradition in basketball has deep roots too. John Wooden directing UCLA basketball to unprecedented heights during his 27 years as coach. In 1964, his Bruins won the first of 10 national championships. A small, quick team with its daring defense, it made theft an art form. And in 1975, he coached his 10th national championship team, and again it was intelligence and quickness that defined the Bruins. Two coaches, two universities, two histories of tradition in college basketball. Today from Los Angeles, ABC Sports presents an alumni game between UCLA and North Carolina in honor of the coaches, the universities, the players, and what they have meant to college basketball. Some of you may think that Pauley Pavilion has been on the UCLA campus forever. It's not so. It didn't open until 1965-66 season. But it quickly gained recognition as a citadel of college basketball when the Bruins won the first 40 games played here and 168 of the first 171 played here. The building and the people came together at the right time. And today we take a pause in basketball history for a moment of respectful recognition. This ABC Sports Special brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevy truck. By New Kellogg's Pro Grain Iron Man food. And by Sure Antiperspirant. Sure is available in new Desert Spice scent. What we do here today is pay tribute. Now, this is not going to be a terribly competitive game because there are a lot of squeaking wheels out here that need some grease. It won't show up in anybody's standings. What we're doing really, in fact, is celebrating the good side of sport. And the two dominant personalities here today will be these two men, John Wooden and Dean Smith, an English teacher, a math teacher, one retired, one still active, both statesmen in their coaching profession. They're classic examples that things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And Dick Vitale, I think these two fellows, as much as anybody I've ever known in athletics, typify that old truth that stardom is manifested in the rest of the team.
Keith, when you talk about these two great guys, I think it can be summarized basically with a very simple formula that really tells what they're all about. That formula is the 3 T's. Talent plus teamwork equals triumph. When you talk about Dean Smith, certainly one of the innovative minds in all of basketball, a class program out of North Carolina. On the other side, John Wooden, a legend, an absolute superstar who tested time. One with little guys like Hazard and Goodrich. One with the big guys like Lou Alcindor and also Bill Walton. And then one with the tweeners, the in-between guys, Sidney Wicks and also Curtis Rowe. Basically, I'd simply say, John Wooden is to coaching what Horowitz is to the piano.
That's heavy. We have the unholy circumstance here of having a USC Trojan as part of our announcing team. I think we'll get away with it because this is a warm weekend of friendship. But the lovely lady from women's basketball who literally turned it around all over the country, Cheryl Miller. And Cheryl now visits with a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, the NBA champions, a former Tar Heel, James Worthy.
Thanks a lot, Keith. First of all, congratulations, James, on beating the Boston Celtics for the NBA title. Now, when looking back at your college days at North Carolina, playing for Dean Smith, what are some of the most important things you learned?
Well, I think overall his philosophy is very positive. He puts a lot of emphasis on things other than playing ball and just being an athlete. I think that he's a very caring man, very sincere. But the most important asset that he has is that he's a teacher as well as a coach. And I think his players really benefit after they graduate.
So how does it feel to once again play with Michael Jordan, Sam Perkins, and some of the other great North Carolina players?
I tell you, this is a dream game. Really playing with some of these guys in college and then on in the NBA. It's a great reunion, and I think it's a great opportunity to honor a man, Jordan Wooden, who's done so much for the game.
Well, James, we'd like to thank you again. Congratulations. Back to you, Keith.
All right, Cheryl, thanks very much. We're still drawing straws to see who's going to start. But we think we'll find 5 on each side ready to tip it off in just a moment. In the alumni game, a weekend of celebration for college basketball.
Understand my notes? Jeepers.
There were 50 players listed on the rosters today, 26 Bruins and 24 Tar Heels. UCLA's Sidney Wicks broke his right hand practicing. He's going to try to play. Carolina's Tommy Lagarde ill. Somebody's got to start. Here's Don Sawyer, who's been the PA announcer for the UCLA Bruins for some 23 years, and he'll tell us who.
It features alumni from the University of North Carolina and the UCLA. Now let's meet the starting lineups for both teams. First, for the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. At guard, played for the past 4 years at North Carolina, an All-American, number 35, Kenny Smith. At guard, a starter on the 1957 National Championship team, number 40, Tommy Kearns. At forward, a 2-time All-American and a starter on the 1968 team that played the national championship game, number 33, Charlie Scott. At forward, a starter on the 1982 national champions, currently a member of the world champion Los Angeles Lakers, number 52, James Worthy. At center, a starter for the 1972 team and 1975 Player of the Year in the NBA, number 20, Bob McAdoo. And the coach for the University of North Carolina for the past 26 years has taken his team to the NCAA tournament the last 13 seasons, Dean Smith. Now for the UCLA Bruins. At guard, a starter on the 1967 and 68 national champions, All-American number 42, Lucius Allen. At guard, a 2-time All-American, led the Bruins to their first national championship, continuing as head coach of the Bruins, number 42, Walt Hazzard. At forward, a 4-year letterman, played on the championship game in 1980, number 55, Kiki Vandeweghe. At forward, played the last 4 years, the second leading scorer in UCLA history, number 31, Reggie Miller. At center, a starter on the 1969, 1970, and 1971 national championship teams, number 30, Curtis Rowe. And the head coach for the Bruins for 27 years, John Wooden.
Well, the principal personality got a roaring round of applause, standing ovation as you would expect, because everything is pointed to John Robert Wooden for this weekend. It is a charity event. The two universities' general scholarship funds for the University of North Carolina for all students. The Nell and John Wooden Postgraduate Scholarship Fund here at UCLA, available to all students who will be participating in the revenue from this event. And so we have this afternoon, Dick Vitale, an afternoon of fun. Hugh Hollins and Mike Lowerman are the officials. We're going to play a combination of NBA and college rules, because Hugh and Mike are from the NBA and don't know all of the subtleties about college. We'll play 24 seconds. We'll have a 19-9 three-point line. timeouts when you need them, and you're going to need a lot with this crowd. The starting lineup sort of represents each generation under the two coaches. And they'll be going in and out all day long, and we'll try to keep track of it and let you enjoy them and let you enjoy your own memories about them. And Carolina controls the tip. And the men from Blue Heaven have the ball. Outside, Kenny Smith. And Reggie Miller comes down with it. So the two young ones handle the ball first. Kiki Vandeweghe. Block goes Hendig.
Scored that basket. Tried a rejection by the guy scoring now in Milan, Italy, Bob McAdoo. There goes Kiki Vandeweghe. Here comes McAdoo over. Definitely goaltending. Definitely interfered with that ball.
Of course, Bob McAdoo gets the first points for North Carolina. Bob, very popular, very substantial member of the Los Angeles Lakers during his time here. Inside, Miller.
Great ball movement. Excellent cut by Reggie Miller going out to Indiana with the Pacers. They're really excited about getting Reggie Miller in the first round.
But keep your eye on the round number 42. Watch him. There's a couple of 42s out there. It's Lucius Allen with the ball now, but the other 42 is Walt Hazzard, who just got a new contract, multi-year, to continue as head coach of UCLA's basketball program. And I got to say this, Walt is not revving his motor.
Well, they're really trying to have some stability in a program, because since Coach Wooden retired in '75, there's really been no stability, and now they're trying to establish that.
Walter has had a lot of practice in visiting with officials. It gives Mike Lauerman a bit of noise, but this will all be in fun today. Into the ball game for North Carolina, handling the ball out in front. Number 40, and he's a man with some gray hair on his head. That's Tommy Kearns. Tommy was one of the 4 New Yorkers on Frank McGuire's team that went down to Kansas City and beat Wilt Chamberlain.
1957, 32-0. You know what's the amazing story right now? Watching Kenny Smith shoot the free throw. Kenny Smith went to Archbishop Malloy High School in New York City, coached by Jack Curran, as he throws up a brick. And his running mate, who's running with him right now, who played in 1957, Tommy Kearns, he went to the same high school, but it used to be called St. Anne's, and the coach for Mr. Kearns was a little guy by the name of Louis Carnesecca.
The assistant coach, incidentally, for Dean Smith on the Carolina side, as Reggie Miller travels with it, is Doug Moe, the coach of the Denver Nuggets. He played at Carolina in the early 60s under Frank McGuire. And he's enjoying himself thoroughly. And I'll guarantee you one thing, if there's ever a Tar Heel that needs to go in the NBA draft, as long as Doug Moe's there, he'll take at least one.
He took Curtis Hunter in the 7th round.
Nice little pass there by Lucius Allen to Reggie Miller. Miller's got a couple of baskets now.
He's trying to increase his marketability with the Pacers.
Tommy Kearns a little short on that shot from off the top of the key, going for 3, and Walt Hazzard has the ball picked away from him, and here's a breakaway.
Yes! Hello! They're going to love him in Sacramento. He'll hook up with Bill Russell and Willis Reed, the assistant coach now at the Sacramento.
Curtis Rowe.
Rowe and Wicks, what a combination. Played together in 69, 70, and 71.
They were what you called a while ago tweeners. They were not big men. They were just really of average size for a front line when they played, but boy, they played big.
When they hooked up in the finals against Jacksonville, it was really interesting watching Sidney Wicks, who went in and he told Coach Wooden, let me guard Gilmore.
Worthy's pass to McAdoo.
James Worthy. I'll tell you one thing, you really arrive in basketball, Keith, when kids on a playground start imitating you and start utilizing your name, and that's what they're doing now with James Worthy.
Yeah, but he's done it with quiet dignity. He just put it up when it had to be. He hasn't been loud about it at all.
Lucius Allen hits the jump shot. He played 2 years with Lou Alcindor, now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Not a bad move there. It didn't go down. They got the tip. Timeout is called, and here comes a load of subs. The Greyhounds are coming into the ball game now. The kids are coming out onto the floor for North Carolina. Number 23 will be Michael Jordan. There's Walt Hazzard ambling back to the bench for a glass of water.
He didn't look like that in 1964 when they won their first championship and he hooked up with Gail Goodrich. They had that small team and they won it beating Duke. They beat Jeff Mullins' team.
Well, he was so quick with that little jump shot off the top of the key. There's a hook shot thrown up and in by number 35,
That's Brad Wright.
Brad Wright. Brad Wright, 6'11". New York Knicks property. Here's Sam Perkins for the Dallas Mavericks. Michael Jordan is number 23. He's in the lineup now. UCLA coming quickly back with Rod Foster handling. Rod, of course, with the Phoenix Suns. Reggie Miller stays in. Number 12 is Montel Hatcher, who also is with the Indiana Pacers.
Foster, who was out all of last year with an injury due to a Jeep accident, is a property of the Phoenix Suns and is just a quick jet with the ball.
Sam loses, and there's some flailing away inside, and we get a foul.
Keith, when I see Sam Perkins and Michael Jordan on the court, I think back in 1982 with the great trio of Worthy, Perkins, and Jordan, and an outstanding point guard, Jimmy Black, and a complimentary player, Matt Doherty, and winning the first national championship for Dean Smith.
We'll be back after these messages and a word from your local station. 17-10, scoreboard shows Dean Smith and Doug Moe. Let's check the Carolina lineup. Phil Ford, number 12, is in. Phil, you remember, of course, from those great clubs. Sam Perkins is on the free throw line. Michael Jordan is number 23. Joe Wolf is 25. Joe, of course, a prominent name around Los Angeles now since he's coming to the Clippers. And who else is in there? It's Al Wood. The Dallas Mavericks.
He's with Dallas, and he's a little bit into trouble there because when you look at the guards they drafted, Jim Farmer and Steve Alford, and they have Rolando Blackman. Oh, they're going to some full-court pressure right now. A little half-court trap. That's unfair, dude. That's unfair. Carolina's half-court trap.
Yeah, but he's sitting over there laughing about it right now. Number 10 is Rod Foster. Out in front, that's Jamal Wilkes. Inside, that's Brad Wright. He gets it outside. Shot comes off the rim by Montel Hatcher, and Carolina's running it. Bingo.
National Player of the Year in 1978. When they used to go to the four corners with Phil Ford, I'll tell you one thing, Keith, coaches used to wave the white handkerchief and want to quit because he was awesome with the ball.
Well, these are the young ones out on the floor right now, and we're pretty sure we're going to see Michael Jordan doing his thing in a couple of minutes. Inside, they have a little trouble, and it's knocked
Here he
loose,
goes.
and here he comes.
Showtime.
No.
Uh-oh.
Al Wood, short, and Jamal Wilkes. Hatcher can't get it. It'll be Carolina's ball.
I was mentioning before Al Wood's status with the Dallas Mavericks. They also drafted Steve Alford in the second round. So with Jim Farmer from Alabama and Steve Alford combining with Rolando Blackman and also Derek Harper and Brad Davis, it could be tough for somebody who's going to get cut.
Yeah, but there may be some shaking down, too. You know, there might be a preseason trade or a training camp trade before it all takes place. I look for some people to move around before they tip it off this year among the new members.
Sam Perkins, you got to think about this. Jordan shooting his jumper. Automatic. Great touch. Great athlete. Laney High School, Wilmington, North Carolina. He told me, he said, Coach, nobody knew about me until my senior year of high school.
Rod Foster, who came to UCLA out of New Britain, Connecticut. Rod the Rocket, and he helps Hatcher in stealing the ball out of the corner, and this is Brad Wright, and he's fouled.
Michael Jordan, such a great story, along with guys like Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas. I really believe, Keith, they really deserve the standing ovations among our youth because they've not only done it on a basketball court, they've done it off the court and always have the great personality as well. They haven't allowed it to really dominate their life to where they've gone the wrong route.
Wright is on the line. Foster now has hit 2 3-pointers, but when you look at these guys who roam up and down the NBA hardwood, seeing them shooting 19-9 makes it look less than what we expect out of them.
I tell you, we won't tell anybody that Brad Wright just threw up an AB, an air ball. We won't tell Coach Wooden. Sitting to his right.
Lynn Shackelford is coming into the ball game. The Shack, number 53 for UCLA.
What a great wing shooter he was during the
one of the best I have ever seen.
Great shooter.
Lucius Allen is back.
He lost 4 games in 72 hours with the Miami Floridians that he did as a collegian where they were 88-2.
Al Wood out of the corner. And the score now is 21-19.
He had a fair center to play with, though, by the name of Alcindor.
Not bad.
There it is.
He had his shot there, but it won't go down. He's busy in the broadcast industry himself. I'll tell you, my favorite memory of Lynn Shackelford when they played as traveling as called on the turnover there was when they played Houston, and it was Shaq's job to shadow Elvin Hayes, and we've got a feature coming up later on that as they held Big E to 10 points.
Well, Big E thought that Kareem was... Here comes the starting lineup of 1968 from North Carolina. They went to the final game and were beaten in that final game by UCLA and Mr. Alcindor.
Well, that's Dick Gruber, number 13. UCLA handling the ball right now. Lucius Allen inside. Rusty Clark is the big man in there in the middle for North Carolina. The rebound is taken out of there by Larry Miller, one of the great All-Americans in Carolina history. Number 33 is Charlie Scott. It's short off the front iron. Rusty Clark at 6'11" was the first big man that Dean Smith ever had. And he has gone on to become a thoracic surgeon in North Carolina, very successful. But it's Larry Miller and Rusty Clark. Those two in particular, I guess, as much as anything, credited with Dean Smith's foundation for what he has built there.
That's what he was telling me earlier today. He said that Rusty Clark gave us our first dominant rebounder and also getting the play of Larry Miller, a great scorer.
That's Curtis Rowe on the line. Whistle underneath, and the foul is called on Bill Bunting. Well, 1968 was the first meeting ever between UCLA and North Carolina, but let's go back to that time and follow the progress of the Bruins through the tournament. There were really what amounted to two championship games in 1968 for UCLA. The Houston Cougars were the semifinal foes at the LA Sports Arena. Houston having broken UCLA's 47-game win streak during the season, and they talked a lot about it. At the time of redemption, the Bruins showed up with a diamond-and-one defense with Lynn Shackelford shadowing Elvin Hayes. The game was a mismatch. Big E scored 10 points. Lou Alcindor had 19 points, 18 rebounds. UCLA led by 22 at the half, by 44 midway the second half, and Houston's Guy Lewis called it the greatest basketball exhibition he'd ever seen. The big question then going into the title game against North Carolina, did UCLA have anything left? The 68 title game was the first meeting ever between the two teams, Bruins in white, Tar Heels in blue. Dean Smith wanted to control the tempo, use the four corners offense early, with Scott, Clark, Bunting, and Gruber set with Larry Miller roaming. Didn't work. Alcindor scored 34 points, grabbed 16 rebounds. The Carolina man defense couldn't stop the running Bruins, and UCLA was off early toward a 23-point championship victory. 4 UCLA starters named to the all-tournament team. Carolina's brilliant Larry Miller took the other spot. It was the most dominating Final Four team performance ever, missing only one thing, that being the dunk shot, which the rules makers had ruled out because of Lou Alcindor. How times do change. That is one of the teams that many say might have been John Wooden's very best. That's an argument you're never going to settle because of the success the man had here, winning 10 national titles in 12 years. And there's a rundown, including one victory in 1969 over his alma mater. So John Wooden, who wrote accomplishment in stone in the history of college basketball while here in Westwood. We've got a timeout, and our score, UCLA 23, North Carolina 23, and we'll be back in a moment. The rotation of people continues. Matt Doherty, number 42, has come in. Many of you, I'm sure, remember Matt. Number 22 is in the lineup. That's Dudley Bradley of the Milwaukee Bucks. That's Matt Doherty handling the ball. Out in front, number 14 is Steve Previs. Played in 1971, 70, 71, and 72. Also in the lineup now for North Carolina, Mike Pepper, number 11, as the Tar Heels handle the ball.
Pepper was a real estate guy right now. Is a real estate guy down in Virginia. He was a guard on a team in '81 that lost to Indiana and Isaiah Thomas for the national title in Philadelphia.
Number 34 in for Carolina. That's Bill Chamberlain, who was one of the New Yorkers who came to Chapel Hill to play. Out in front, shot by Previs, won't go down, and the rebound is taken out of there by Haley for UCLA. He just finished his collegiate career. The man whipping the pass inside is Greg Lee, who is now teaching school and coaching some, but having been a great player for John Wooden at UCLA, his greatest accomplishment in athletics, though, I think Greg and a partner were the best two-man beach volleyball players I have ever seen in my life.
Andre McCarter just shot a jump shot, hit that jumper. He was telling you he's coaching right now, Greg Lee, and he retired from his beach ball volleyball days. But I'll tell you this, Keith, I'll always remember Greg Lee with that, as we see the little jumper right there by Dudley Bradley.
Bill Chamberlain.
Oh, it's Chamberlain. I'm sorry, Bill Chamberlain. But I'll always remember Lee with the little lob pass into Bill Walton when Walton was 21 for 22 against Memphis State, beat Gene Bartow's team, and they had Larry Keenan.
We have a feature on that coming up in a little while. I always thought it was kind of interesting, too, that the suffering coach in one of the most dominating individual performances I've ever seen, Gene Bartow, wound up coming to UCLA and coached a couple of years. Very successfully, too.
He was very successful. In fact, I've often believed that they should have done all they could to keep Mr. Bartow here. He did such a great job during his era. I mean, there's Bill Walton from out of Helix High School, out of San Diego, and he had such a tremendous career. His first 2 years, they won, I believe, 60 in a row. Then it went up to 73 in a row before they were beaten by Notre Dame. And 75 in a row.
Stuart Gray, number 55 in white, in there now for UCLA as they continue to, everybody's going to play before this day is done. We're also going to see Walton, I think, at least in a symbolic tip-off
nice cut
at center court. Great pass, but the ball won't go down, and Andre McCarter finally comes up with it for UCLA. And nice little piece of ball handling, taking it inside. Turkovich.
Pete Turkovich hooked up with Andre McCarter, played together when they won that last championship for John Wooden in '75 when they beat Kentucky.
Jack Haley picks up the loose ball, takes a swat over the head, but he's off to the races and travels. Little walk-in dribble there. Haley drafted by the Chicago Bulls.
Hey, Keith, I don't want people to start screaming that it was an 88-game win streak that was broken by Notre Dame. We know that. We're only talking about Bill Walton's era.
Yes, right.
When Bill Walton was there, as you said, it was 75 in a row, but it was 88 overall when Dwight Clay hit the jump shot for Digger Phelps and the Fighting Irish, and Convocation Center was rocking and rolling in South Bend, Indiana.
Handling the ball out in front, that's Mike Pepper. Number 34 is Bill Chamberlain. The action and slowed just a bit. You know, they all come out with spirit, vim, and vigor. In about 2 minutes, it slows down.
Chamberlain was the MVP in 1971 in the NIT when they won the NIT championship. Also, Dennis Wysick was on that team, an outstanding rebounder, and he's been very critical of Coach Smith for not getting into the finals over the last few years, getting to the Final Four. He has a publication now out in Carolina. Wysick does.
Does he? Well, there's two schools of thought on that. One of the interesting things, we were talking about Rusty Clark being his first big man. North Carolina is not famous for its centers. They just haven't had that many big men over the years. We've got a timeout. Everybody taking a blow. Cheryl Miller with Bob McAdoo.
Bob, you looked impressive the first half. You must be having a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, it's a worthy cause for Coach Wooden, and you see all the players that we brought out here. We really wanted to win this game, especially without Kareem and Mark Eaton out there to block all of our shots.
Well, Bob, you've had the opportunity to play overseas and in the NBA. Which do you prefer?
Both of them have provided me a great lifestyle. I was just teasing James. I saw them win the world championship, and the people just caved in on the court. When we won the championship, they picked me up and took me off the court. So it was fun in both places, though, being on the serious side.
Well, thanks a lot, Bob.
Okay.
Back to you, Keith.
Okay, Bob. Bob's playing in Italy right now, and he hadn't spent too much time with the pasta and the pizza. He looks fairly trim. Inside, whistle and a foul. A chance for a three-point play coming up for Haley.
Bob McAdoo's also the reason I'm working with you, Keith Jackson, because when we got Bob McAdoo with the Detroit Pistons, everybody thought we would win big, and we didn't win. And you know what happens to the coach when you don't win? Yeah. McAdoo gets the big contract, goes to L.A. Now he's a Milan hero, and I get the Ziggy. I get fired.
He was also the first J.C. transfer that Dean Smith ever had at North Carolina.
Yeah, he came from Vincennes Junior College, Keith.
Matt Doherty handling the ball for Carolina right now. Greg Lee, number 43. Defending was Jack Haley, and Andre McCarter knocked it out of bounds, and Carolina's going to keep it. We're going to see the membership of that 1976 Olympic team, which had 4 Tar Heels on it, coached by Dean Smith and John Thompson a little while. Way outside, won't go down for Dudley Bradley. Inside, it is blocked as Pepper tried to put it up. McCarter's moving it. Pergovich lost it.
Andre McCarter out of Overbrook High School in Philadelphia would have had a connection of great guards for UCLA with Walt Hazard and Andre, and now presently Pooh Richardson. His clubs 3 years in a row went to the finals of the NCAA, the Final Four of the NCAA, back in the 70, I believe it was 75, 76, and 77.
It's interesting as life goes on and the turns that it takes for people. Bill Sweek, who played in the game a few minutes ago, and Bill was one of the scrappy guys for John Wooden's teams. Bill now is coaching basketball in Monaco.
Yeah, he told us.
Monaco, and he's over here shopping for a big center.
They're all looking for centers. In fact, tomorrow, Dean Smith and Walt Hazard are getting on a plane going to Princeton, New Jersey at the All-American camp to look at all the great players, and I can't wait to go there. I'm speaking there Tuesday.
My gosh, we lost Doherty in the crowd. Bradley trying to bounce the ball to Matt, and he, in pursuit of it, went sailing up into the bleachers.
That's the kind of player he was at North Carolina. He was a role player with the great talents of James Worthy, Michael Jordan, and Sam Perkins.
Ball is slapped out of bounds by Bradley. Now here comes more substitutions into the game. For UCLA, it'll be number 24, Roy Hamilton. Number 35 coming back in is Brad Wright. Number 53 coming in is Gary Melanson. But now the Carolina Tar Heels, the Olympians, are in there. From the 84 team, Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins. There's Phil Ford. Number 12 is inside. Haley gets it and misses. Number 52, of course, is James Worthy with the ball. He drops it off. Not good. Picked up by Charlie Scott. McCarter has his pocket picked by Jordan. Perkins and slam dunk Worthy.
Cam and James, it was a DD Duncan derby in the first 2 games when they hooked up with the Celtics, going up and down the court until they got the Boston Garden, and it became 5-on-5.
That 76 Olympic team, coached by Dean Smith, of course, beat the Yugoslavs for the gold medal.
Good night from Laney High School, Wilmington, North Carolina, a superstar.
I don't know why he doesn't leave a hand in there once in a while. He takes it in there so hard. Haley scores for the Bruins. It's a 35-29 ball game. Haley has 7 points now. The UCLA leading by 6. That's Perkins, Sam Perkins.
I remember Perkins with the long 3-point shot when he played against Virginia and Ralph Sampson. It really wasn't long. It was like a 17-foot shot, but he hit that long-range jumper.
There's a foul on Haley. He'll be going to the line. We've got a halftime feature coming up with Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson's music you'll enjoy. This is just one of the moves you'll see at halftime.
He's got to be really on cloud 9 with the acquisitions Chicago's made in the draft. Chicago really strengthened themselves, Keith, with Scottie Pippen coming in, and outstanding, versatile kind of performer from Central Arkansas State. Also, they got a great player by the name of Horace Grant, a big kid, and I thought 2 steals in the second round, and Tony White and also Ricky Winslow from Houston. So Doug Collins has got to be really happy, but Mr. Jordan's got to be ecstatic because now they've gotten him a little help.
Yeah, they'll take some of the pressure off of him, and you know what? You'll see other facets of Michael Jordan's basketball game as well, because he can do things other than just shoot and slam dunk. Whoa, look at this. Be careful.
This is supposed to be an alumni game. Look at Phil Ford.
Oh, wow. Jack Haley takes on Michael Jordan in the free throw line. Jack goes down, Jordan to the foul line.
Jordan looked over at him and said, hey, this is an alumni game. Take it easy, Mr. Haley. Haley's trying to impress some scouts. He wants to get a chance to play.
Well, he's going to the Bulls.
Yeah, he got drafted by the Bulls.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing, he better learn right now. If he wants to make the Bulls team, I'd go in the locker room. I'd say hello to Mr. Jordan.
Yes, sir.
And I'd say, you know what, Mr. Jordan?
Can I carry your coat?
I'll carry your coat. I'll carry your bag. I'll take you out to the bus every day. I'll protect you from all the people that want your autograph. He's not going to make the team doing what he did there. I'll tell you that.
But the aggressiveness will mean something to Doug Collins.
You know what's interesting? You mentioned the Olympics. 1964, it all started for North Carolina with Larry Brown, now the coach at Kansas, a great teacher. He made the Olympics. And since 64, Carolina's been represented on every Olympic team.
Going to the hoop and not getting there. Roy Hamilton, and the Tar Heels come back. Perkins from the corner. Won't go. Rebound right. And Hamilton has it. Haley. Well, Jack's turning out to be the big scorer in the game.
Hey, Walt Hazzard's looking over at him and saying, Haley, where have you been for the last 2 years?
Points,
You've scored more points now than you did in a month with us.
39-34, UCLA. Worthy.
James Worthy. I'll tell you one thing. With Magic Johnson and James Worthy and the fountain of youth, Mr. Jamar, I think they're going to repeat again as world champs next year.
That's Hamilton, shut off by James, but gets it. You know what impressed me so much, though, about Worthy in the last playoff series? He went to Boston, and he had a hard time during the games in Boston. But what did he do? Got himself together, came home, and just ripped.
Yeah, he took it over. He was a different player at the Fabulous Forum than he was over at the Boston Garden.
But it's so easy, Dick, as you know, having been a coach and having seen as many basketball games as anybody, I guess, over the last few years, it is so easy to let it come unraveled when you get into a circumstance like that. But character will surface, and it certainly did in James Worthy's case. Well, that fanciful bit of slow motion really didn't work too well. We've got 5 minutes to go in the first half. 41-36. And shot popped up and in by Roy Hamilton to make it 44.
Hamilton,
36.
I made Hamilton a very rich guy, Keith. We drafted him as the 10th pick with the Detroit Pistons. You know where he is today? He's in television and production with CBS.
Is that right? We've got a timeout called on the court for substitutions. Let's go back. We were talking a moment ago about those Olympians from North Carolina. Here's a history of the astounding number the university has provided. On the last 6 Olympic teams, there have been at least one Tar Heel, starting in 1964 when Larry Brown was a guard with the gold medal winners at Tokyo. Brown now the coach at Kansas, and he had 2 successful seasons here at UCLA. 1976 at Montreal, there were 4 Tar Heels on the Olympic team that Dean Smith coached to the gold medal. Mitch Kupchak, Tommy Lagarde, Phil Ford, and Walter Davis. John Thompson of Georgetown, the assistant coach, and John will be the Olympic coach next year. The Americans beat Yugoslavia in Montreal for the gold medal with a team that very definitely had the Smith look. He chose playing personnel specifically for that purpose. Teaching time is short with an Olympic team, and 1972 had proven that anything could happen in international competition. Bobby Jones, Al Wood, and Charlie Scott have also been Carolina Olympians. And the last 2, 1984 in Los Angeles, Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins. The 84 Olympic basketball competition, a blowout for the United States. The argument will go on for years that the 84 team may have been the best Olympic group ever. Jordan was spectacular, and Perkins was steady. The Soviets didn't come, but I don't think their presence would have mattered. That group of players almost made Bob Knight a passive coach. And when the Olympic team is chosen next year, North Carolina's 2 prime candidates figure to be guard Jeff Lebo and frontliner J.R. Reed. The tradition continues.
Number 54, Denny Miller.
44-36. We had some substitutions. We had a timeout, and I think we've still got a timeout. We'll be back in just a moment.
Shot by Lenny Rosenbluth.
Lenny Rosenbluth,
That's about
the
his third.
1957 title team, throws in a 3rd hook shot. He's got 6 points.
He averaged over 26 points a game as another three-pointer went down.
He, of course, was part of that New York group that showed up at Chapel Hill under Frank. Here he is again. He's coaching now and teaching down at Coral Gables, Florida. That was an air ball.
27 years he's been teaching. He said history. Also coached Chris Corciani, who's going with Jimmy Valvano over at North Carolina State. Rosenbluth in that year was part of the Underground Railroad of Mr. McGuire that went to New York, from New York to Chapel Hill.
Kearns just hit one for Carolina. Walt Hazard bombed in a three-pointer a while ago from outside in front. And Walt works it down inside, but lost the handle. Haley, trying for his 15th point, is fouled by Rich Yoniker, big guy who plays in the middle for Dean Smith's North Carolina Tar Heels. Now the substitutions come rolling back in, and we'll pick it up and go at a little faster pace, I think, as we close out the first half with 2:56 to play. Haley will be on the line, shooting a couple with 13 points. But let's get the substitutions now. For North Carolina, it'll be John Kuster. I remember one time a friend of mine called him a different name.
He was a hustler and aggressive player.
Oh, he'd
for North
roll
Carolina.
around, bite you on the knee, wouldn't he?
He's a very competitive coach also at George Washington University. He said he wanted me to tell everyone that he's recruiting some big players here while he's out in L.A.
Kenny Smith, number 35, is in. Number 20, Bob McAdoo, has come back. Michael Jordan, number 23, is out there, and Sam Perkins, 41. Jack Haley is on the line. He's going to leave in a moment as Stuart Gray returns for UCLA. Number 31 is Reggie Miller for the Bruins. Brad Wright, number 35, is out on the court. Now Gray, number 55, big guy, comes in, center. Came out of the San Fernando Valley, is now with the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
And number 10, Rod Foster.
Gray played high school basketball at Kennedy High School with Darren Day down at Granada Hills. Never really became the player they thought he would be here at UCLA.
McAdoo misses. Rebound to Kiki Vandeweghe, the fifth man on the floor for UCLA. Inside Gray, and he won't go for it. McAdoo came in and intimidated him. I think probably fouled him.
Vandeweghe was on a team that got beat by the Doctors of Dunk. Denny Crum, up and under move. McAdoo has so many offensive maneuvers. Like, remember in 1980, they got beat by Darrell Griffin, Larry Brown's year. Vandeweghe played on that club with Rod Foster. Darren Day also played as a freshman.
Foster out of the corner.
Foster was a great free throw shooter, one of the best ever at UCLA.
Kuster got it.
Kuster played with Tommy Lagarde, Mitch Kupchak, Walter Davis, and Phil Ford. What a team. They were really a superb basketball team.
I don't know. They call him the Rocket, Rod Foster. And I guess the reason for it is he has that capacity to become literally a blur sometimes. He is so quick. Vandeweghe from outside for three.
Can you imagine Vandeweghe with the college three-point mark? It'd be awesome.
Oh, boy, you kidding? 60-49 UCLA. That's over the top and out of bounds.
We were
very prominent around here the last couple of days, of course, with this game has been Ernie Vandeweghe, Kiki's dad.
We've been talking a little bit earlier about the Olympians and Dean Smith in 1976, and I got this bit of information from one of the astute, knowledgeable analysts.
Michael Jordan.
Look at that drive by Mr. Jordan. Well, Billy Packer was telling us yesterday that the real team concept of the Olympics started with Dean Smith in 76, as opposed to picking all superstars.
Well, he wanted people that knew his system, one, and people he knew he could fit into his system because the teaching time was too short. Shot blocked, rebound Bruins, Reggie Miller.
That doesn't happen to Michael Jordan, Keith,
No,
especially by guys like Brad Wright. I'll tell you that.
Well, here comes Foster with it now, as nobody can control it. He throws it away, but it bounces back to Reggie Miller. Miller headed as the #1 pick to Jack Ramsey and the Indiana Pacers.
Donnie Walsh, the general manager, is a North Carolina former player, as McAdoo. I think he's trying to get a contract from Jerry Buss again in the Los Angeles Lakers. But
McAdoo's got 8 now.
Donnie Walsh played for Frank McGuire, and now he's the GM, and he's really ecstatic about getting Reggie Miller. He thinks it gives him a great shooter, tremendous range.
That's Stuart Gray hitting that one. And that's another shot you didn't see a whole lot when Stuart was playing for real around here. Perkins. And McAdoo whips the pass to Smith. Can he hit it?
McAdoo played in '72 when they were beaten by, I believe Florida State beat them. They were leading in, and McAdoo got himself in foul trouble, fouled out of the game, and Florida State ultimately went and played against UCLA.
That's a charge. Hugh Hollins, big grin on his face as he whistles the offensive foul on Michael Jordan.
Here comes Michael, tongue hanging. There he is. What a great bounce off the floor, hanging in the air. Little finger roll, looks back at it.
If I were going to stand alongside somebody and visit with them, there's nobody I'd rather do it with than John Robert Wooden, born and raised on the soil of Indiana. I can identify with that because I came out of the red clay of Georgia, and I think both of us ordered our school clothes out of catalogs. Coach, I have never seen a weekend so deeply wrapped in the warmth of friendship as I've been watching here in this special treat for you.
It's given me a very warm feeling, Keith, not only from the people I knew, but people I didn't know. I know my relationship with the players that I've had through the years and with many friends, but it's been an opportunity to see the warmth of the North Carolina players and other people, and it has been very nice. And I know that my dear Nellie, for whom the scholarship will be in her name, along with mine, she's smiling down on this.
The writings of John Wooden, I hope, will be more formally published someday, because this man studied English at Purdue and is a considerable man of letters, and I think I've read every Woodenism I could find, but some yours, some not, and some blended. There is one line that I remember that I came across from your book some time ago, that the last law of learning is repetition. Therefore, I am a practice coach.
Well, I think so. I always considered myself a teacher. As an English teacher for many years, I wanted to be a good teacher. I practiced the laws of learning, but I firmly believe that in teaching sports, you follow the laws of learning even more closely than you do, say, to teach youngsters to parse a sentence, because you can see it in front of you better. You can explain it to them. You can have them go through it. You can correct them, and then have them repeat the proper model until it becomes habit with them. And that's why I always enjoyed practices more than the games themselves. The games are just an extension of the practices to see where you need more help in certain areas and where you've done a good job.
Folks, I want to say this, too, as we close our brief conversation here. Don't be misled by the elegant dignity of this man. He was cat quick, he was tough as a doorknob, and he would fight a lion when he was playing. And there was a time when he made $100 a game touring with George Halas' pro team around the Midwest. That might have been his greatest supply of walking around money when you really needed it.
Undoubtedly it did, Keith. Unfortunately, I lost it all the day before Nellie and I were to be married when the banks closed. But it did give me money that I had never had before, and I enjoyed it. And as a competitor, I wanted to be a good competitor, but I wanted to leave the competitiveness on the floor. Just as at practices, I told my players that when they came on the floor, they're a basketball player, and nothing else until practice is over. But when practice is over, they're a student at UCLA, and I've tried to be that way as a competitor myself. I worked hard, but I tried to not get carried away one way or another. For every peak, there's a valley, and I wanted to stay away from both.
Coach, thanks very much. Let's go to another man now who comes out of the middle of the country and embodies many of the same ideals as Coach Wooden. Coach Dean Smith with Dick Vitale.
Keith, thank you very much. We go from one legend, one superstar, to another Hall of Famer in Dean Smith. Dean, I'll tell you, you and I were talking earlier, and looking on the sideline and all those great players that wore the Carolina blue during your era, what are some special moments that you feel and memories over the last 26 years?
Oh, there's so many, Dick. It'd be hard to describe. I remember when I saw that 68 team out there, how they won those ACC regular season championships, the tournament, and then went to the Final Four. I see so many of the players hustling like they did when they played. They can't change. They still dive for the loose ball.
You know, Dean,
a lot of good movement, and just they're great people. I've been very fortunate.
you know, Dean, you talk about a tribute to a man, and they have it here this weekend with John Wooden. What have been your impressions of Coach Wooden over the years of his great coaching career? You started back in '61, but basically looking at Coach Wooden and his career, what are some of the impressions he's given or been there for you?
Well, of course, I think I can speak for all coaches that we've all tried to emulate John Wooden in some ways. He had a tremendous gift in teaching the fundamentals and getting them to play as a team. He believed in balanced scoring. Defensively, they were sound, and most of all, they had a nice confidence, almost an inner arrogance that was nice. And especially in those later years when they had it going so well, everybody was shooting at them, and they were ready to play each time out. So I have tremendous respect for Coach John Wooden, and I've known him for many years, and he's meant a lot to me personally, and I just wish him well. That's why we're here. We're just fortunate to be a part of this salute to John Wooden.
The great team concept, which certainly is epitomized by North Carolina. I'll tell you something. When I go down to North Carolina, you can bet your last dollar, class personified. It's because of this guy here to my left, Dean Smith. Let's go over to Keith right now. I want to thank you, Dean, for joining us.
All right, Coach Dean Smith. Incidentally, I don't know if you know this, but the North Carolina basketball team, when it travels first class. We've got a special feature of a pair of Michael J's, Michael Jackson's music and Michael Jordan's athletic ability with a basketball. It's a special feature coming up right after this timeout.
Bislett Stadium. The place is pure magic.
Cram closing on the record, and he's done it.
Now Steve Cram returns once again to this magical track to lead a dream field in the Dream Mile live. Plus Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt, Bill Elliott, and more in a NASCAR Classic, the Firecracker 400. All on a special expanded edition of ABC's Wide World of Sports, Saturday.
In our salute weekend to John Wooden and the alumni game between UCLA and North Carolina, the Bruins leading 68-56. 13 players have scored with each team. I've always been of the opinion this television, that is a visual medium. Some things don't need to be talked over, like Michael Jordan in performance. Michael Jackson's Thriller music is all you need.
1977.
thriller. He is the thriller. But my question is, you've got all the moves, but can you sing?
No. I know my limitations, sir. I can't sing a lick.
Your thoughts of the first half so far?
Well, I think we're getting everybody involved. They got off to a good, fast break start. They get the easy layups. And, you know, you have to clamp down in the second half, get some of the young guys in there with some little spirit and all, and keep the pace going.
Michael, we've seen a wave of outstanding talent in the NBA coming from North Carolina. What does North Carolina do, and what does Dean Smith do differently to produce such premier players?
Well, I think when it comes to recruiting, he doesn't recruit basketball first. He recruits academics first, and he feels that you're a nice person as well as a good athlete. And once you get to the school, I think you only learn from that point on. I think my 3 years in North Carolina was very dear to me. I think without those 3 years, I couldn't develop into the player and the person that I am become.
You've got to be Chicago has to be very happy with the draft choices. You got players that will definitely take some of the pressure off of you. What is the outlook for next season?
Well, I think we got the best draft of most teams in the NBA, and I think our promising season should come out to where we're at least above 500 or 50-win ball team. And, you know, if we got to go out and build on the foundation that we built on last year.
Well, Michael, good luck. Thank you. Back to you, Keith.
He's going to be a great one. More importantly, I think we're assured he's going to be a contributing member to his society. We'll be back with the second half of play after these messages and a word from your local station. Know that the score is all that terribly important in what we have going on here at Pauley Pavilion at UCLA this afternoon, but it is part of the story. And it's another half of fun getting ready to start for you. And today's game, the alumni basketball between North Carolina and UCLA, our salute to John Wooden in Collegiate Classic Weekend, being brought to you by Pert Plus, shampoo plus conditioner in one, so you just wash and go. We've noted along the way that it is a salute to John Wooden, and both universities are participating in any revenues that accrue from it. And this is why. Look at what the man has done in his career, 27 years of coaching basketball at UCLA. And before that, 2 very successful seasons at Indiana State. And before that, at South Bend Central High School. And before that, at Dayton, Kentucky. And before that, as a player at Duke. This fella, Dean Smith, what he has done at North Carolina. You know, Dick, Dean Smith, in his playing career as an athlete, he was a point guard in basketball, he was a catcher in baseball, and a quarterback in football. Always the decision-making position.
An amazing guy. I'll tell you one thing, when you look at Coach Wooden, you look at Coach Dean Smith, as we talked about the great teamwork, the high percentage shot, I think the thing that really is amazing to me is that they've been able to blend great athletes and get them to play within a role and within the team concept, and that takes special teaching ability.
And you don't have a career if you don't have longevity. John Wooden had 27 at this university, plus the 2 I mentioned. And Dean Smith has now had 26 at North Carolina, plus a couple at Air Force, and before he went there as an assistant to Frank McGuire. Now let's pick up the names of the people who are on the court for the UCLA Bruins. Taking the ball to the basket, that's James Wilkes. And he just scored it. Number 30 is Curtis Rowe. Number 24 is Roy Hamilton. And Denny Miller is number 54. And you know you're going to have somebody show up with a gray beard, and you figure it's got to be Denny Miller. That was Lenny Rosenbluth, number 10, missing the hook. He hit a couple in the first half for North Carolina. We've got some time and years on some of those bodies out there. But Lenny Rosenbluth was the big star in 1957. He was an All-American. He was the NCAA Player of the Year in 1957. Breaking inside and taking it to the basket, that's number 22 in the Carolina Blue, Dudley Bradley, who plays with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Bradley's a defensive player, but you know, you talk about Lenny Rosenbluth, and it all started with that New York connection in 1957, but it was 2 free throws by Joe Quigg that beat the Kansas Jayhawks with 6 seconds left. What a moment for Frank McGuire, 32 and zip.
You just took all the information right out of my feature piece.
The footage tells it all, Keith, and nobody can handle it with a voiceover like Keith Jackson.
Matt Doherty, number 42, is in the ball game. On the line, Roy Hamilton. And we've got a line of substitutes ready to come in for both sides already. That was going to play more than 2 or 3 minutes.
That was Roy's downfall as an NBA player, shooting the basketball. He was an excellent penetrator, good floor leader, did a solid job during his days at UCLA.
Pretty good little move by Mr. Bradley on the feed from Mr. Gruber.
Dudley Bradley's a defensive player, Keith. He's lived in the NBA as a defensive specialist, bouncing from team to team.
Eddie Miller's two-hand set from about 22 feet wouldn't go for him, and now he's going to amble off toward the bench, I think, and have a rest.
I don't know if you agree with me, but I think the greatest achievement, the greatest accomplishment in all of sports and coaching has to be John Wooden's record, winning 10 national championships, but going 38-0. Perfect. Think about this. In the NBA, you can lose 11 games and still win a world championship in an NBA series.
Curtis Rowe won't go for him. Rebound put up and in by Wright. Well, you were talking about that 57 team and the New York connection and all of that. In capsule form, let's remember it, because there is another very famous basketball personality involved in that story. Some of you may remember that North Carolina was voted national basketball champions with a 26-0 record back in 1924. Well, in 1957, they won it in hand-to-hand combat against the Kansas Jayhawks and Wilt Chamberlain. Chamberlain had 23 points in the title game in Kansas City. North Carolina in white, number 10 Lenny Rosenbluth led the Tar Heels with 20 points in the title game. The other Carolina starters, Pete Brennan, Tommy Kearns, Bobby Cunningham, and Joe Quigg. Pete Brennan had been an All-American in 1956. Rosenbluth named the NCAA Player of the Year in '57 and was a star member of Coach Frank McGuire's Subway Underground from New York. The game tone was torrid, tied after regulation in a third overtime. Joe Quigg hit 2 free throws with 6 seconds to play, and North Carolina won it as they slapped the ball free and come up with it at the final second. Final score, 54-53 Carolina. And there he is today. What do you say, 21 years teaching school? 27 years teaching school in Coral Gables, Florida.
You know, getting back to the 11 losses for an NBA team, so people understand what I'm talking about. You can lose 2 in the first round, 3 in the second round, win 4, lose 3 in the semis, 3 in the finals, have 11 losses, where John Wooden had to be perfect. He had to be perfect.
For North Carolina, it's Wolf, Wood, Jordan, Worthy, and Kenny Smith. And it won't go. For UCLA now, you've got Reggie Miller back in. Number 45 is back out there. That's Andre McCarter. And who did we have coming out of the corner? Kiki Vandeweghe, Stuart Gray. Shot off the front iron, and Vandeweghe has it. Jordan going after the Portland Trailblazer, but he can't catch him.
I'll tell you, Vandeweghe comes from some great athletic people in his family. Dr. Ernie Vandeweghe played for the New York Knicks, went to Colgate. He's here today, and his wife, I understand, and his sister were great athletes.
James Wilkes is on the floor also for UCLA, and we got a foul call. Joe Wolf. Or Michael Jordan it was, who banged Stuart Gray over the noggin trying for the rebound.
Wasn't Kiki's sister a great swimmer? Kiki Vandeweghe?
Yep.
Well,
Joe Wolf, the future Clipper, won't go. Michael Jordan, inside rebound.
There's been every adjective to describe that jumping jack.
Grays won't go. Inside rebound, Miller. I was surprised that Indiana Pacers picked Reggie Miller, frankly. I guess everybody in the world kind of figured they were going to pick Steve Alford, including Steve, but they did not. They took Reggie Miller.
They were really determined to get a big guard who can score and give them range. They weren't totally down on Steve Alford. I know for a fact that Donnie Walsh tried like heck to get a draft choice late in the first round for possibly taking Steve Alford, but they needed size and they needed someone with great range, and that added up very simply to Reggie Miller.
Jordan is fouled. Foul is on Miller.
Fouls on number 31, Reggie
John Wooden mentioned in the halftime interview that about playing for George Halas's barnstorming team, made $100 a game for his walking around him money. That was also the money that he and Nell had put aside for their wedding in 1932. And the week they went to get the money, $909 and a nickel, the bank failed. And they borrowed $200 from a friend and went ahead and got married anyway. And of course, the rest is history. One of the great romances of their generation.
He's really happy now with his great-granddaughter, I guess, that occupies a lot of his time. He spends a great deal of time. He's got a beautiful family and just a class individual, Keith. I think no one can say it better than Keith Jackson, the way you depict it, and I mean that sincerely.
Well, that little move of John and his program, and if you remember over the years, they would always turn around and look up into the stands before the game started, and he would always wave that program. That was simply acknowledgement of the thumb and forefinger circle, the OK sign coming from Nell, and that started back in the freshman year at Martinsville, Indiana High School. And that the romance had a bit of a rocky time getting started with the two of them because Coach Glenn Curtis had an 8 o'clock curfew and a no dating rule during basketball season.
No dating rule. You think you can get away with that in the 1980s?
Not anymore, no. 13-point lead right now for the UCLA alumni.
I was teasing Dean Smith. I said, are you going to go to your famed traps in your zone pressures? He said, only one time. I said, yeah, well, we recognized that it was unfair. They haven't practiced against him.
McCarter's shot won't go. Worthy tips the ball over to Michael Jordan, and out of backcourt he comes with it. Inside he goes with it, gets the foul, can't get the basket.
We're going to see a rush yet by North Carolina. I believe if they keep Michael Jordan, they're going to get back quickly in this game. As you take a look at Michael Jordan with the basketball, he's got so many moves.
How do you defend something like this? Look at this.
You do a lot of praying. You can't stay away from him because he shoots the ball better than people believe. And number two, in the open court, he's just awesome with a capital A. I'll never forget, Keith, one of my high moments in a North Carolina at Carmichael. They're playing Virginia, and we're doing the game, and it's just amazing. Virginia's dominating, and all of a sudden in the last 3 minutes, he blocks a shot on Mr. Sampson. He goes the length of the court. He jams it, and I guess I got in a little trouble because I came out screaming, inch for inch, the best player in the nation. He deserves the Naismith Award, Michael Jordan. Well, all the Virginia people, they went bananas. And you know what? 2 days later, I had a show for Virginia to do a game.
You're lucky you walked away. You could have left in a box. Oh, there's a three-pointer from way out yonder. Carolina now trying to creep back in it. They're down by 10, and a little bad pass there by Wilkes, missed by McCarter, and here's the long pass down court, broken up by James Wilkes. Kiki Vandeweghe. They've got a 3-on-2 for Kiki's little jumper and can't get it to go down. Joe Wolf, that young body rebounding it. Kenny Smith to Worthy, to Jordan. Oh! And Stuart Gray comes away with it.
Jordan really defies gravity. He is really an Evel Knievel in shorts.
Miller can't get it. Vandeweghe gets it. Won't drop for him, and the blue comes back. Jordan. That's short.
Little air ball by Mr. Jordan.
Just nipped the front iron. Well, you were looking at the preseason prospect that they had put out for the year Michael Jordan was recruited and came in. There wasn't much conversation about him, was there?
They just listed his name in 1981-82. They said Michael Jordan, one of the freshmen, and then he made that big jump shot to win the first national championship against Georgetown for Dean Smith.
Well, it's obvious now in hindsight, Dean Smith was looking to sandbag somebody.
Number 41, Sam Perkins.
The big redhead, Bill Walton, who came here and only played 3 years of varsity basketball because freshmen were not playing varsity basketball when he came here. But in the title game, 1973, well, let's remember it. It is not unusual for one player to step out in a championship game and take charge. None have ever done it so profoundly as Bill Walton for UCLA in the 1973 title game against Memphis State. The big redhead had 506 rebounds during the season. In the title game, 21 out of 22 from the field for 44 points. The Walton gang, back-to-back titles off back-to-back perfect seasons, and no other team has ever done that. Farmer, Myers, Wilkes, Drollinger, Turgovich, Hollifield, Lee, Curtis. At the end of the season, the win streak was at 75. But in the title game, it was the Bill Walton Show. The picture of Walton on the floor, banged up, was something of a vision for his future. Who knows what might have been if the big redhead had stronger bones in his feet. I think the big redhead with stronger bones in his feet would have played on a lot of championship teams. That's what I think.
Well, he did all the great things that you'd like in a winner. That year he had for Jack Ramsey in Portland back in, I guess, 77. As we look at the UCLA Bruins career scoring list, remember Reggie Miller played 4 years. Alcindor only played 3 years, now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Walton only played 3 years. In 1972, when he came out of Helix High School, you know the #1 player in high school basketball that year was not Bill Walton. Was a guy who's a congressman now by the name of Tom McMillan. And Tom McMillan verbally said he was going to North Carolina. And then all of a sudden he showed up in College Park, Maryland for a guy by the name of Lefty Driesell, who was very hurt one year when he had a guy by the name of Charlie Scott ready to be committed to go to Davidson. And Charlie Scott said, no, Mr. Driesell, I'm going to North Carolina.
Of course, college basketball is full of stories. There's another related story on one of the great players at Duke, Art Heyman. Dean Smith thought for a little while he had Heyman, but Art went off down and teamed up with Jeff Mullins and Vic Bubas and had a great career at Duke University. Incidentally, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had a previous commitment and could not be here. As my understanding, he's in Europe right now and could not come for the ball game today. But, you know, it's incredible the number of people they were able to get here. It really is.
You know, Keith, the difference between both programs, as far as I'm concerned, is UCLA goes to the little half-court trap. That should be unfair. You should play nothing but man-to-man. But, you know, basically, I think the difference right now in both programs over the years has been the center play. You look at UCLA's post play, having a Jabbar and having a Bill Walton, a dominant center, where North Carolina really has not had the dominant center. They've had the good centers. Mitch Kupchak's certainly a good center, Tommy Lagarde, but not the dominant guys of the magnitude of a Walton and certainly a Jabbar.
Well, no center ever was so dominant, with the perhaps given good health. Walton is right in, I thought, Alcindor's class at the time, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's class, but we'll never know because Bill settled into that succession of injuries to his feet and legs, and it's just simply cost him terribly.
He had that great accomplishment against Memphis State we talked about earlier, 21 for 22, but also in 71-72 season when his team beat Florida State after Florida State beat Bob McAdoo's North Carolina team. Florida State had a little guard then from UW-Durham by the name of Otto Perry and a big guy named Reggie Royal. And those memories, I'll tell you, can go back and back, thinking of all those days. The one that stands out to me with UCLA was 68 when they lost to Houston at the Astrodome. Guy V. Lewis's team and Elvin Hayes was on cloud 9. And then they met again in the semifinals, and as you said, it was blowout city, 101-69. And John Wooden and Lou Alcindor and people got a little bit of revenge.
Greg Lee hitting from the outside. Greg Lee, of course, played along with and was part of the group that included a John Vallely. John coming in from junior college and sat outside and made shot after shot after shot like that. John not be able to be here today either.
Vallely was the guy responsible back in 1970 to shut down part of a combination they had at Jacksonville with Artis Gilmore and Rex Morgan, and he shut down Rex Morgan. There goes Sam Perkins taking the ball strong to the basket. Dallas, interesting.
Long arms.
He's got long arms. Interesting situation also down at Dallas now. John McLeod takes over. Dick Motta. You know Dick Motta's going to pop up somewhere as a coach eventually.
Score now, 89-82. North Carolina has pulled within 7 of UCLA. This is Rod Foster handling against Phil Ford. Greg Lee out in front has a little jumper and can't get it. Inside, a battle on the boards, and James Wilkes takes it up.
He's a big wide body. You know, Keith, right now North Carolina.
Brad Wright, I'm sorry, Brad Wright.
North Carolina is employing their scramble defense, which was one of the innovations of Dean Smith. He's innovated so much in the game, the run and jump defense, the passing game, freelance offense, the scramble defense, the huddle at the free throw line. He's got such a creative mind.
Gary Melanson is in the ball game, number 53, too, for UCLA. Jamal Wilkes is out there. You know, I know that Jamal changed his name, but I always wondered if there wasn't another reason for his changing his given name in concert with his desires for his religion. Do you know what his given name was?
No, I don't.
Jackson Keith. Ball is picked up finally by Melanson, and he is fouled.
You know, you mentioned in Wilkes was Rookie of the Year for Golden State, the Warriors and Al Attles, when they won that World Championship led by Rick Barry, certainly a Hall of Famer and an outstanding tennis guy. You should see Barry hit the tennis ball.
Well, they called him Jamal Wilkes Silk when he played here, and there was a good reason for it. So smooth. Oh, me.
What a combination, Wilkes and also Walton. You know, I mentioned academic All-American, and that's the one thing Coach Wooden constantly wants us to remind people about, the number of academic All-Americans he coached here at UCLA.
Well, Sidney Wicks was one of the academic All-Americans and a great player in college, and is now an assistant coach here. And I frankly think you'll see Sidney Wicks pop up one of these days in a substantial coaching job and probably do a good job.
Great performance about Wicks that I always remember is the time against Jacksonville and Artis Gilmore when he insisted. He went over to Coach Wooden. Coach Wooden, let me play behind. Let me play behind Artis Gilmore instead of in front of him. He played behind him, and he rejected 5 shots on Gilmore, and they went on to win another NCAA title.
Whoa, Greg Lee looks smooth as silk himself, doesn't he? And bingo coming right back and answering for Carolina's Phil Ford.
Phil Ford, you hope that he's got his problems solved. You know, he had the problems with the alcohol, and that's one of the reasons why he's out of the NBA. He was Rookie of the Year when he hooked up with Otis Birdsong and Kansas City. You hope that's all behind him, and that he's got his life in order now and ready to go on to bigger and better things.
Greg Lee took a wallop and is trying to walk off the impact of the collision, and it looks like he has damaged the right ankle or right knee, and he's going to leave the ball game. That's one of the troubles that you run into with not being terribly active and then coming out and playing as hard as you like to play. And I guess Greg's going to stay with it. He walked it off. It'll stay in the game, and Jamal Wilkes brings it up.
Little change of direction by Wilkes.
Little tip picked off by Perkins. Kuster to Bradley.
Bradley with a quick layup. Them coming back. We thought they'd come back. But, you know, Bradley's brother, Charlie, played at Wyoming, was also drafted in the NBA. Here goes a little trap now.
To Lee. Inside. Right. And a foul.
Wright played on the NIT championship team of Walt Hazzard in 1985 when they won the NIT. I got in trouble with UCLA that year, too. On ESPN, I came out, Keith, and I said, they got a new tradition they're starting at UCLA. We're number 65. We're number 65. They didn't like that. He always reminded me about that.
Now, they will, in this arena, express their feelings.
You know what disappoints me about today? And you're trying to find all the positives and the beauty. That this arena was not sold out for the tribute of John Wooden is really a sad commentary by the UCLA alumni. At North Carolina, you'd have 30,000 people for this.
We'll be back in just a moment. Another Woodenism, a line from Coach John Wooden: if you keep too busy learning the tricks of the trade, you may never learn the trade. He drilled that into his players, and he had a marvelous career, 27 years. Here's his first win and his last win. The people in 1964, small by comparison, a team led by the guards. Walt Hazzard, now the UCLA coach, and Gail Goodrich, now retired from the game. Neither had any fears about going inside and flailing away among the trees. Watch Goodrich here. But it was the combination of people and personalities that convinced John Wooden to use the 2-2-1 zone press to go with his fast break offense. The deep man, the last outpost in the defense, Keith Erickson, and a key man in a 30-0 season and a first national championship. Well, the last game that John Wooden coached was 1975 against Kentucky for the championship. UCLA again outsized and coming off an overtime semifinal win against Louisville 75-74, a game the coach ranks as one of his all-time favorites. Richard Washington and David Myers were key people in a high-scoring ball game. Andre McCarter was the playmaker, Ralph Drollinger, Marcus Johnson the bangers, Pete Turkovich the other guard. Only 6 of them played against Kentucky in that title game in San Diego, and they won because of the old fact of basketball life for them: repetition. In a championship game, you don't always have time to think. You just do. John, right now, a little conversation with the officials, I think, you know, and I want to tell you something. Well, I go back to 1950 out in this part of the country, up and down the old Pacific Coast Conference, AAWU, and the whole thing. It's gone on and on and on. And I can remember officials after officials, as you see the all-time winning coaches total there. A lot of officials said John Wooden may have been a little more genteel in his language, but his blade was just as sharp. I mean, he could really get on your case, and he used that rolled-up program for a megaphone. You know, he could take that and concentrate the sound right on you, burn a hole in you.
I thought the one guy that when he retired would have been the ideal guy that they should have went to all costs to get here was Denny Crum. Denny Crum, a former UCLA Bruin, a former assistant coach. They really, I didn't think, made the kind of effort to get Crum other than offering a routine contract, because I heard they did want him. But basically, I mean, really going after to get Denny Crum, because I think he would have continued to sustain some of the greatness that existed with that jersey UCLA.
Denny Crum was too smart. Denny Crum didn't want to be the one to try to follow the legend. And you want to know the truth of it? Nobody really has successfully yet.
Nobody's been able to follow this legend at all. There's no doubt about it. You think about, well, you had Gene Bartow, then you had Gary Cunningham and Larry Farmer and Larry Brown, and now Walt Hazzard trying to bring back some of that camaraderie and togetherness. I don't believe this is a great basketball environment, Keith Jackson, at UCLA. I think they'll come out if you win and win big. But we saw last year, not even sellouts for some big games that we were here. For example, the Pac-10 championship. And when you look at the great basketball environments down in Bloomington, Indiana, Chapel Hill, and down in Raleigh and Durham, and certainly down in Jayhawk Land in Kansas, I mean, those programs, Syracuse now, the Carrier Dome, those are basketball environments.
Well, they're spoiled.
I got to remember that.
They're spoiled out here, too, but you're omitting 2 or 3 things. One, you're omitting in the places you just named, there's no professional competition, right?
Yeah, I agree
secondly,
with
they
that.
don't have the kind of winter weather they have out here, which is another factor. But fundamentally, I think, one, you're right, because they're spoiled. I mean, they had this incredible success. Bob Boyd sat right over across town at the University of Southern California and had marvelous basketball teams, and nobody ever came to see him.
He had Paul Westphal and Dennis Layton, and I remember that club, and a slowdown was one of the losses that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's team suffered. He had only 2 losses, that loss and the one to Houston when he had that scratched eyeball, and never complained. He came out and dominated in the future meet.
All right, we've got 6 minutes and 51 seconds to go. UCLA alumni 97, the North Carolina alumni 97, and these last 7 minutes ought to be fun. St. Louis Cardinals, New York Mets, or Chicago Cubs and Montreal Expos. And the Montreal Expos making some news, as are the Cubs this year. Following, you'll have Monday Night Sports Line with Al Traub. So we start it all tomorrow night at 8 Eastern Time.
I want to see that, to watch Andre Dawson. How did Montreal let him go to Chicago, where he took less money, as we watch Steve Previs with a jump shot?
He was not pleased in Montreal, and so he left, and he's having a great season. Now let's pick up the names of some of the people who are out on the floor. UCLA in the white, and the ball is slapped away from Lucius Allen right there. Pete Turkovich is out on the court. And number 12 is Montel Hatcher, one of the young ones. Jack Haley, one of the young ones, is back in there. And Haley, working along the baseline, has taken a walk on the baseline and will leave. And now we've come down to crunch time. We've got 5 minutes to play, Dick. The score is 100 UCLA and 101 North Carolina. And the question is who wants to win? Well, they're going to put the kids in and have a contest over the last 5 minutes or so. As we come back now, action has been going on, trying to meet the time commitment for our telecast. On the line is Al Wood for North Carolina. Joining Al on the court now for the Tar Heels in a 102-100 ball game, James Worthy, Michael Jordan, Joe Wolf, and Phil Ford. For UCLA, that's Andre McCarter handling the ball. Brad Wright, number 35. Stuart Gray, number 55. Reggie Miller, 31. Kiki Vandeweghe. Ball is stolen away by Al Wood. Now we're getting serious because each side is trying to win the ball game.
And it should be a no contest right here. James Worthy and Stuart Gray. Worthy's got that great first step. In fact, you look at their players right now that Carolina have on the floor. That should be like Sybil Shepherd hooking up against Dr. Ruth in a beauty contest. An NC no contest.
Well, it isn't going that way yet, is it? It's
No.
105-103 as Miller hits one.
They didn't put the bikini on yet.
Jordan against Miller. Hooked it, won't go. Over the top, and Bruins get it.
This is the time that a guy like Michael Jordan loves. He really loves the latter part of a game. He's known as a finalizer, Keith, along with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, guys that can finalize and close out the game.
Miller against Jordan. Reggie driving against him, loses control of the ball, and there's no foul call.
Michael looks at Reggie, says, come on, Rook. And the rookie looks at Jordan and says, hey, wait a minute now. I'm going to light some up for you. This might have went off Reggie's foot right here. Yeah, it looks like it did.
Probably did, but it's out of bounds to the UCLA team, and now there's a whistle and a foul.
Number 25, Joe Wolf.
Joe Wolf committing the foul.
Coach Wooden looking up at the clock, and Dean Smith, the adrenaline flowing. Doug Moe sitting back very relaxed. He's done a great job out of Denver. I thought he'd have been a great coach, being a New Yorker from out of Erasmus Hall for the New York Knickerbockers.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fun, though, during the commercial timeout a while ago. Hugh Hollins walked by, and Doug said howdy, and Hollins hit him with a tee. Just to remind
Just like old times. Doug Moe came out of Erasmus. So did the Kangaroo Kid, Billy Cunningham, and a fair singer by the name of Barbara Streisand.
All right, 105, all tied. And this is Worthy giving to Perkins. Perkins gets in the paint with those long arms. He's tough to handle.
What a trio they were in college. Worthy, Perkins, and Jordan. People have to remember that Worthy and also Jordan left school early, or there might have been 2 extra national championships.
Gray throws it in,
offensive
and an
foul.
offensive foul.
Good call by Mike Lauerman. Gray pushes off with the free hand, Keith. Now we got to start talking strategy, the stories, filling time.
Well, Miller gives up the ball there, and I thought he should have kept it.
Well, that's about the only time he's going to give it up all year. But there goes Stuart Gray pushes off. See, Gray was shocked. He said, Reggie giving it up?
Jack Haley is up to come back in. Reggie Miller, incidentally, has 17 points in the game. Michael Jordan can't get it. Joe Wolf, no basket. Offensive foul. All goes to the Bruins. Score is 107-105. North Carolina. Joe Wolf the foul.
Gene Shue's going to like that trio of Reggie Williams, Joe Wolf, and also Kenny Norman, who I thought was a steal as a 19th selection, because earlier this year people were talking about Kenny Norman as a lottery selection, and he dropped, and they got a good one at number 19.
Stuart Gray on the line. Won't get it.
He's a backup player at best, Keith. He knows his role. Come to practice, push on some bodies, and go out and give you 3-4 minutes. But there's a role for players like that as an 11th and 12th man. He's with the Indiana Pacers and Jack Ramsey.
And the way the pay scale is these days in the NBA.
Not a bad job.
It's not a bad job. Beats driving a truck.
Or a taxi.
All right. Carolina handling it. Smith, Jordan, Worthy.
Oh, he wants
Perkins,
to go one-on-one.
Wolf.
He wants to go one-on-one. Look at him right there.
Inside Michael. Didn't get it. Miller comes out with it. Got away from Perkins. Gives to McCarter over Perkins. Got it.
Nice two-man play by Reggie Miller. I like the way Reggie's giving the ball up. I think Reggie's going to be a fine player with the Pacers. I think Donnie Walsh made a great choice.
Bruins lead by a point. But Kenny Smith takes care of that.
He said, Bill Russell, that's what I'm going to do for your Sacramento team. Get me the rock, and I'll take over.
Jordan against Miller. Vandeweghe inside, can't get it to him. Worthy's on him. McCarter, right. He stumbles, he got a push, and there's a foul.
Do you think center play drops off a little bit where John Wooden is thinking, maybe I could have a guy out there by the name of Ferdinand Lewis Alcindor, or maybe a Bill Walton? Hey, what about the two together?
It'd be a sight.
Can you believe that?
Too bad Kareem couldn't be here, but if he were here in this particular time of the game, you would obviously swing your choices over to the team in white. They lead, they trail right now by a point.
That's a fairly good analysis.
Took a lot of courage.
Oh, look at that air ball. It's been fun, Keith, and it's such a beautiful man. And I tell you, anybody that's been close to basketball, I know I get a little, I'm a purist and a traditionalist, but when I'm near John Wooden or Dean Smith, I get a little excited because they certainly are great teachers. Oh!
What a play.
Wave it off. Should be an offensive foul. They should have waved it off on him. No guts to wave that off. Come on, Huey. Come on, Huey. I like Huey Hollins, too, but watch this right here, Keith. You be the judge at home. Did he push you off a little bit? Watch right here now with the free hand. Oh, no, no, no. I'll take that back. I'll take that back.
He's got a three-pointer. And it's 112-108, a 4-point North Carolina lead. These teams have met in collegiate basketball only 3 times. 1 and 2, or 2-1, UCLA's favor.
UCLA beat them this year early in the season when Carolina came back from a Hawaii trip. UCLA dominated them.
Jack Haley going to the basket, can't get it to drop. He needed it. He needed a 3-point opportunity here.
That was a good call before by Huey Hollins. Once again, it proves those guys with the striped shirts are usually right. But you know that early season game, Reggie Miller passed the ball exceptionally well and drove with it, and they really stunned an outstanding North Carolina team because I thought they totally dominated them in every phase here out of Pauley Pavilion.
Haley now 8 for 8 at the line. It's a 3-point North Carolina lead. Michael Jordan is going out, and Phil Ford is coming in.
He's a little disappointed.
Well, he's not taking him out. He took out.
Coach Wooden wants a timeout. He wants to win this. Dean Smith's taking Michael out. Didn't like the way he handled a basketball. And Dean, I'll tell you something. You know he wants that W badly. I don't care what he says. He wants to win.
Well, you don't have the success these people have had without having some bulldog in you. And, neither one of them likes to lose in any sense. John Wooden, as a matter of fact, in high school was set out a couple of times for fighting.
I think the great compliment that I heard about Dean Smith came out of John Thompson's mouth, who'll be our Olympic coach in 1988. He said, the greatest gift you could have is the gift of knowledge and the ability to share that gift. And he said, Dean Smith did that with me in 1976.
Well, they've had their say now. Jordan did not leave the game. Joe Wolf left the game, and Phil Ford came in. So it's Jordan, Ford, Smith, Worthy, Perkins for North Carolina. UCLA's got McCarter, Wright, Haley, Miller. You're not going to put Hazard in. You're not going to risk Walt's health at this point.
No, Hazard's coaching right now along with his mentor.
Vandeweghe stays in. And there's a foul. Wright fouling Ford.
You know, you take a look at Phil Ford, and I think back in 1977 when my buddy, a guy I really, you know, I have a lot of fun with, but I have great respect for Al McGuire, and he won that national championship. But North Carolina in 77, Phil Ford had the bad leg. Walter Davis had a broken bone in his, I guess, his thumb or his hand. And Tommy Lagarde missed the entire NCAA tournament with an injury. And Al was able to walk away in his farewell. Seashells, balloons, and party time for Mr. McGuire.
free throws make your score 114-109. Only 20 seconds remaining to play in the ball game, and one would certainly get the feeling that Carolina will be able to hang on. But they're going to the well here in the final seconds. Vandeweghe inbounds it to McCarter. He's working in the backcourt, gets it ahead to Kiki. He's cut off by Perkins, pops it up, no. Haley inside in the paint, yes.
Haley's really worked hard.
6:05 to go, 114-111. And a whistle stops him.
Haley's had one of his big days in his career here today.
And there's the foul. Scoring, Reggie Miller 17, Jack Haley has 18, Jordan 16, Perkins 14, Smith 13 for the Tar Heel alumni.
And the beat goes on and on. North Carolina next year is going to have an outstanding team as we look at John Wooden, J.R. Reed in the middle will make my all Rolls-Royce first team, along with Danny Manning and Derek Chivas. And in the backcourt, I'll go with Gary Grant and David Rivers. But Carolina's got a great freshman coming in that you and I saw, King Rice. And he'll be a good replacement for Kenny Smith. And now Dean Smith gets on to Big Bird, heads out to Princeton, looks at all those All-Americans and says, you know what? I'll guarantee he'll get one or two also.
Well, when you've been there 26 years, when you have built the foundation as he has, as the long pass is high and off the hands of Miller and into the hands of Worthy, and there's your final score. North Carolina 116, UCLA 111. Fun game, no question about it. And I hope perhaps a moment of living history that will have some meaning for all ages, because all you saw today was quality.
It was really great being part of this. A lot of class when you see those two jerseys, UCLA and North Carolina. Those jerseys, to me, epitomize class in college basketball.
Final score, you see, 116-111 North Carolina. Tomorrow night, Major League Baseball action on ABC Sports. 2 games of the National League. St. Louis, first place in the East against the Mets, or Chicago against Montreal. Check your local listings. Following Nightline, ABC Sports, Monday Sports Night. Al Trotwig, the host. Guest, Joe Paterno, Penn State. Dr. Harry Edwards of baseball. Race car driver Danny Sullivan. Catch all the action on ABC starting at 8 Eastern Time. North Carolina versus UCLA. Alumni basketball today brought to you by Pepto-Bismol. Coats, soothes, and relieves. Pepto-Bismol for most common stomach discomforts. And by AC Delco. Stay ahead of trouble with AC Delco parts. Stay tuned for ABC World News Sunday next over most of these ABC stations. And this closing note from the writings of John Wooden. You should be more concerned with your character than with your reputation, because your character is what you really are. Your reputation is merely what others think you are. The writer was John Wooden. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.